Welcome to It Happened in Grand Prairie as we do our history tape number 390, and we're taping people that have been very important to the history of Grand Prairie, Texas, and they're continuing to make history even today. And we are very pleased today to have a very special family. And of course, it's going to center around one special person that is a recent retiree, but it's also going to center around his auntie and his sister. And we're so pleased today to welcome, first of all, as we celebrate Black History Month in Grand Prairie, Texas, Joe Lee Tennant. Joe, welcome to the set, young man.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, we're just so glad to have you with us.
Well, I'm glad to be here with you.
Well, you've really brought two wonderful ladies with you. First of all, I'm going to have to welcome Mary Lee Harrison, who is so very important to the history of Grand Prairie, Texas. Mary Lee, we want to welcome you to the set, honey.
Thank you.
And you're just looking beautiful today.
Thank you very much.
As always, and we're going to talk with you a little bit about your past in Grand Prairie, Texas that was so very, very wonderful, centered around the Grand Prairie State Bank and some of the other activities downtown. And finally, with Carolyn Jones. Carolyn, you're so far off we can't shake hands, but I'm going to welcome you to the dais here today. We're glad to have you, the wonderful sister of Mr. Joe Lee, and we're very pleased to have you on the set with us today to contribute to his history tape.
Thank you.
And with your permission, Mr. Joe, would you look right out into your camera? And we want to find out a little bit more about you. We'd like to know the name of your parents, and if you have any other brothers or sisters that you would like to tell us about.
Yeah, the name of my parents is Ruby C. Tennant. My dad is deceased. He deceased about 15 or 20 years ago, and his name was Noah Tennant.
All righty. Now, your mother's maiden name was?
Ruby C. Green.
Green. Okay,
Yes,
we've got that good tie in there because you may want to refer back to this one of these days and say, that was my mother and father. How about other brothers or sisters other than Miss Carolyn?
Well, I got a sister that deceased. Her name was Nora.
Nora?
Tennant. She deceased.
All right.
You know, and also another brother, Noah and Diane.
All right.
And Mary Ann.
And Marianne.
Sister.
Okay.
And Trudy.
Oh, and Trudy. Don't you
Yeah.
forget Trudy. Oh.
Yeah, I almost left her out.
Yeah, yes.
You know.
Now, where were you born, Mr. Joe?
I was born in Prairie, Texas. I was born February the 5th, 1949 in Prairie, Texas.
All right. In Prairie, Texas, as you were growing up, did you go to school in Prairie, Texas, or where did you go to be in the first grade?
Well, we moved to Grand Prairie, Texas when I was young,
All right.
and so I went to school at Dalworth.
At the Dalworth, and you were a Dalworth Dragon then, weren't you?
Yes, ma'am, I
And
was.
we know about Coach Grant because he was just in here a few minutes ago, and he said, there's one of my students.
Yeah, he was one of my teachers at Dalworth, too.
Yes, all
You know.
right. And going to Dalworth, were there any other teachers that you would like to remember that were real mentors to you and good friends?
Yeah, Miss Sally Moore and Mr. Morton, you know,
Yeah.
and Mr. Jackson. I hadn't seen Coach Jackson in a long time. I don't know what's. He's deceased, you know, and David Daniel, the principal of Dalworth, for my father. You know, if it wouldn't have been for David Daniel, I probably never would have been on the right trail today.
Oh,
You know.
and we hated to lose him to death.
You know,
Oh,
he's
he was
deceased.
such a stalwart soldier for boys and girls and for his church and for the community. He was just a wonderful man. And do you remember any of your good buddies, your school buddies, as you were going to school there at Dalworth that you want to mention, other than your family, like Carolyn came along a little bit after you?
Yeah, I had Johnny Ray Twine. I knew him, and
Yeah.
I went to school with Joe Jones
All
and
right.
Albert Foote and Claiborne Foote and Johnny Brooks. We all grew up together. And
Got
we
into
got
mischief
into
together a little.
Mischief together.
Oh, that was good. And going to Dalworth, did you enjoy any of the sports? What sport did you play with the coach?
Well, I liked when I was going to Dalworth. I liked to wrestling, shoot a couple of hoops and all that. But,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Basketball.
Basketball. He is some basketball coach, isn't he?
Yeah, Mr. Grant, he's a good guy.
Yes, he really is. All right, but I like that tribute that you paid to David Daniels, that you wouldn't be where you are today if it hadn't been for him. There are a lot of young people that can say that, aren't there?
Because, if it wouldn't, he's got me started on my first job. I remember when I used to hang around the school with the janitor, his name was Mr. Carlton.
Yes.
And he had a heart attack, and I thought Mr. Daniels said, hey, I want you to come send Joe to the office. And he said, can you take care of this school because Mr. Carlton won't be with us? So I said, yes, sir. I thought I had did something bad.
Oh, and you came there and he got you a job and you got to be the custodian?
Yeah.
Oh, wasn't that a wonderful experience?
Yeah, while I was going to school,
Yes. You had to go to school and then go home and study and clean the schoolhouse also, didn't you?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, David was real special because he had to drive the bus, be the principal, and do a lot of things for the boys and girls, didn't he?
Yeah, he sure did.
Okay, and we're gonna leave you there at the elementary school, and then we're gonna come back in a few minutes to you and tell us after you finished at Dalworth what happened to you and where you went. Would you like for us to do that?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now I've got to talk with Mary Lee just a little bit. Mary Lee Harrison, when did you come to Grand Prairie, my dear?
41.
1941.
February the 4th.
1941. Were your parents here? Or
My
did you?
mother and father.
Your mother and father. Would you like to give us their names?
Lonnie Morgan and Annie Morgan.
And Annie. Oh, that is wonderful. Did you have brothers or sisters you'd like to mention?
Catherine Jones
All right.
and Lonnie Morgan Jr. and Annie Morgan. Annie Ozella Morgan, that was her real name.
Beautiful name, Ozella. Isn't that pretty? Okay, and you came on to Grand Prairie, and did you go to school in Grand Prairie?
No, ma'am.
No? All right. And
Waco.
In Waco, Texas. Okay.
HMO High.
What brought you into the workforce in Grand Prairie, Texas at the bank?
My mother worked for Mr. Turner for years, about 40 years.
Oh, yes.
And he was the president of the bank.
Yes.
And he needed somebody to clean the bank. And I started out as cleaning the bank.
All right.
And ended up the bank's cook.
Oh, yes, and you're famous for being the cook for the Grand Prairie State Bank. There are people today that laud and applaud you because of the good meals and the good times that they had at the Grand Prairie State Bank.
And after Mr. Turner deceased, Mr. Sutton
Mr. Sutton
became the president.
All right.
And he made a good one.
Oh, he did make
He
a good
really
one,
did.
didn't he?
He's a very nice person.
All right. And you worked for the bank from when until when?
Let's see, I started working there in 50, and in 81, I had to retire because I went in an accident.
I see. And they have missed your cooking ever since, haven't they?
They say they have.
Yes, they have. Oh, that's wonderful. Well, do you have a family, Mary Lee?
I do. Some children?
Yes.
I do. I have 5 children.
Would you like to name them?
Number 1, Charlie. You want to give a name or their married names?
Both.
Charlie May Williams Nelson.
All right.
And Travis Williams, that's my son.
All right.
James Earl Williams.
All right.
And Annie Marie Williams.
All right.
And Caleb Manley Williams.
Oh, I love the Caleb. Oh, yes. Oh, that is wonderful. And all of these boys and girls, did they go to school in Grand Prairie?
Correct.
They did.
Professor Daniel was their principal.
All right.
And he was a genuine good one.
Oh, he was wonderful.
He was he really would try to take care of the whole community.
Yes.
Really.
Mm-hmm. He was the father of all of the community, wasn't he?
That's right.
Yes. And raising 5 children at Dalworth, and working at the bank too. That was a pretty hard job, wasn't it?
It was, really.
Yes.
But through the grace of God, I made it.
All right. And do you have a church here in Grand Prairie, or where do you go to church that you would like to talk about your church a little?
House of Refuge Holiness Church.
All right. And it's located?
2012 Sherman.
2012 Sherman. Okay. And do you have special feelings about your church? And have you taught classes and what?
Yes, ma'am, I sure have.
You've done all of the good stuff.
Tried to.
All right. We're going to get back with you in a few minutes. We want to talk with you about what you're doing now. And you're so beautifully dressed. You look like you've been to a party or you're going to one. And we just love that. And the fact that you're an auntie to Joe is just wonderful.
And he's always been a very, very respectable child.
Oh, good.
I've never had 1 minute's problem out of him.
Isn't that good? Now, there's not many aunties that can say that about a young man that was kind of mischievous when he was growing up,
Well, he wasn't.
Oh, isn't that great?
Because we lived very close together.
Uh-huh.
But
Okay.
he's always been respectable and decent, very manable.
You're pretty proud of him for what he's just
I
accomplished,
sure
aren't you?
am.
Okay,
Yes.
we're going to let you hold up his plaque in just a few minutes when we get around to that. But we got to get to Carolyn a little bit and talk with her. Carolyn, we know who your mother and father are because we've already gotten all of that, and your brothers and sisters. Tell us about growing up in a household where you had Joe to contend with and go to school with and everything, and how proud you are of him.
Oh, I'm so proud of him. He went a long way
Yes.
to get there, so he finally made it. I'm really proud of
He
him.
found his way, didn't he?
Yeah, he found his way.
Oh, that's great. Well, do you have a family?
Oh, I had a husband, he deceased.
All righty.
He didn't have, I had stepkids.
All right, you had stepchildren, but none of your own.
No,
Okay, but that's all right. You're going to help us take care of all of our grandchildren of Mary Lee and all the rest in the neighborhood, aren't we?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and what do you do now for a living?
I work for transportation. I'm a bus driver.
Oh, that's great. This is just perfect
Grand
because
Prairie
they don't
ISD.
need you to drive the bus until about 3 o'clock, do they?
Yeah, I got to be back at 2.
Oh, at 2. Well, we're going to have to hustle you out of here pretty soon, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
And tell me about driving a bus in Grand Prairie, Texas. Are the kids pretty nice to you?
Oh, I just love them to death.
Oh, you do?
Yes,
Uh-huh.
I really
Where do you
do.
drive from?
I drive for Daniels Elementary.
Oh,
and
Daniels.
Bowie and Crockett.
Oh, you got the cream
Then I
of the
go to
crop.
Grand Prairie High and to South to take a swim team out there. He just got me going.
That's good. Tell me how proud you are of Joe.
Oh, I'm very proud of him.
That is just wonderful that he has been so successful and has reached this real milestone. You went to work, Joe, for the police department when?
Well, when I started for the Grand Prairie Police Department, thanks to Mr. Daniel, he helped me get the job. And I was going to Grand Prairie High School then when I started to work for the police department.
Oh, you were. And what grade were you in at Grand Prairie High School?
I was about in the 9th grade.
About the 9th grade. And what did you do at the police department to
Well-
start with?
Well, when I went over to City Hall, when he told me to go to that City Hall, that it was a job opening over that City Hall, I did anything. Fred Conover, he came over to get me, and
All right.
and he asked me, and I answered telephone from telephone. I didn't like that too much. I liked the cleaning, and so I did that cleaning,
All right.
a lot, because that's what I liked it to do, and I met a couple of guys that I had seen on the street and talked to me about it.
Uh-huh. That's wonderful. All right, and at Grand Prairie High School, do you want to tell me what you did at Grand Prairie? Did you play any sports, or were you so busy at the police department you didn't have time for sports and stuff?
Well, I was really busy at the police department because when I got out of school, I had a juvenile officer. He deceased. Now his name was Felix Bianchi,
All right.
and he helped me a long way with my history and stuff, and they helped me along with my classes.
Oh, that is great. That is
And
wonderful.
thanks to Joe King, that
Oh,
kept
that
me.
Joe King.
He kept me going. When he used to take me over to the high school,
Yes.
I go out the back door. He let me off in the front door, and I go out the back door, and Dad, Joe, you better come on back in there. You ain't going nowhere.
You're not going anywhere. Stay in this school. Yeah, well, wasn't that wonderful that they cared
Those were
about you,
nice.
Joe? Yes,
And-
and it takes someone like that to encourage. Are you encouraging some other kids now when you see them and they're out trying to play hooky and all that good stuff?
Yeah, my little nephews and stuff, I encourage
Yeah.
them all the time.
Oh, that is great. And after leaving Grand Prairie High School and still being at the police department, you continued on at the police department doing what?
I still continue on at the police department doing maintenance. And every once in a while, I would help out in the jail. Whenever they needed my help in the jail, I would
All right.
always help them out in the jail.
Yes, and that was some experience, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You get to see the other side of the people that aren't quite as nice as you'd like for them to be, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you worked for the police department for how many years?
Well, if I had the years that I've been with Grand Prairie Police Department, including the ones
When you were in high
now,
school?
when I was in high school,
All right.
I would have been at Grand Prairie Police Department close to between 39 and 35 years.
Okay.
But I got, 30 years and 7 months with the Grand Prairie Police Department now. And right now, they are trying to get somebody to fill my position. And so far, we hadn't got anybody to fill my position. And when they called me, I told them I would help out until they get somebody to fill my position.
You may be on for a long time yet until
and
they get
telling
some.
me I might be for a long time.
Yes.
And
even though you have retired fully, well, now we got to do some of this show and tell stuff. Why don't you show and tell me what this one is? And it looks like it has a Lions Club thing on it. And what is this?
This was one of my awards I got for Civilian of the Year from the Grand Prairie Police Department, and all of my friends and all them, if it wouldn't been for them, I never would have got this reward. And I really thank everybody in the Grand Prairie Police Department for this award.
Oh, yes, and it looks like it's presented by the Lions Club, but it has down here for an outstanding service
Yes, ma'am.
and achievement with the Grand Prairie Police Department presented in May 1999. And it has Lee D. Herring, and his insurance agency is the one that sponsored that.
Yes, ma'am.
Longtime Grand Prairians, aren't they?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, and you're real proud of that one.
I'm sure it is.
All right, now this other one you're prouder of, but we're going to let Mary Lee show and tell that one. Let's do that. Mary Lee, you're going to hold that up where the cameraman can see it right out here, but not in front of your pretty face. That's it, right there. And tell us about that one, Joe.
This reward, was for my 30 years and 7 months with the Grand Prairie Police Department that I received, at a dinner that they had for me.
Yes.
In my honor, and a couple of more officers,
Yes.
that they had.
Yes, and we all came to the Senior Citizen Center and had a big feast.
And we had a big old feast, and plus, I got, pails of bubble gums
Yes.
from the Grand Prairie Police Department, employees, and all people in the Grand Prairie Police Department pitched together and got me a nice 27-inch color TV, which was a little bit too heavy to bring.
Oh, it was too heavy to bring today, but it wasn't too heavy for them to bring up there to the reward reception.
They voted on $1 now.
Oh, yes, they did. That was nice. And Mary Lee, you're holding such a wonderful, wonderful treasure there for 30-plus years. And I'd like for you to comment on that, how proud you are of Mr. Joe.
I'm very, very proud of him, my nephew.
Yes.
And he's always been a kind person, easy and treated.
Yes.
And he has a very nice personality.
That's good.
And I'm so happy that he did work for the police department so long. And I've never had one bad recommendation of it, nowhere he went.
Oh, isn't that good? And they would have come and told his auntie if you had strayed down the line.
Yeah, especially, Tom Westone. I know he would have came and told
Oh, yes, And then she would have passed it on, and then you would have been in big trouble, right?
Yeah, I sure would have.
Oh, that is great. Well, let's get to the last one that Carolyn's holding up down here. Carolyn, what is this? That is a certificate.
Joe, a
Oh, is that another one from the Lions Club?
Lions Club. I got 2 certificates when I got this one certificate from the Lions Club.
Oh.
They honored me with 2 certificates for the outstanding civilian of the year, you know.
Oh,
They
that
honor
is
me, too.
great. When you're the outstanding civilian, think about how many civilians work with the police department, all their reserves and all of the volunteers that they have working, even the crossing guards, all of this. And
Yeah.
you were the outstanding one about all of that bunch. Well, that is really great. Congratulations. And that says that certificate of appreciation. That looks real good up on the screen, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to comment on that one? Which, of all three of these, which is your favorite? You're going to have to tell us your favorite, Joe.
My favorite one, you know, is the one that my aunt is holding.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
really proud, but I love them all, but that is my favorite one right there.
Oh, that's your favorite. Yes. Yes, that is really, really special. Now, that's the one that Louis Tovar, who is the head honcho down here, has frozen, and we're going to run the credits over that one. But we're not through yet because we have just a little bit more time we need to talk. I need to know that while you were at the jail doing all of this maintenance and everything, did you have a crew helping you? Was there anyone that you taught your trade?
Well, you know, it was another maintenance guy, you know, and me and him, you know,
Yeah.
his name was James Shefford,
Uh-huh.
and me and him, it was just us two, and we took care of the building, and we used his prisoners' help to take care of the building.
Oh, you do.
Yes,
Tell
ma'am.
me what it's like to be the head maintenance fella, and then you have prisoners. Are you responsible for them? Are you in charge? Did you have to wear a gun? Or tell me something about that.
No, I didn't have to wear a gun, you know, because they most were checked out thoroughly before they was made a trustee.
I
and
see.
They
Uh-huh.
most had misdemeanors like tickets, traffic violations, and stuff like that.
Okay. And how many trustees would you have to have at a time to say that this is Friday night and you're going to clean up all of the properties? How long would it take you, and how many helpers would you have?
Well, you know, if we're going to do a thoroughly job and get the job done the way the job's supposed to be done, it might take us 4 hours, you know. To take
Real
care of the
hard
place.
work?
Real hard work.
Uh-huh.
You know, to take care of the place, you know, get it ready for the next morning.
All right. Now, if you work at that shift, what time do you go to work and what time do you get to go home? If we may be looking for another maintenance guy, and they may be watching this show and they want to know what time you go to work and what time you get off.
Well, my hours was from 4 to 2, but I never was there at 4 o'clock. I always was there at 3 o'clock. That way I was there at 3 o'clock so I can give my trustee that I'm going to have to help clean the place a cup of coffee, you know, and then I would drink coffee till probably about 3:30, and we would start cleaning the place.
Then you start cleaning place. I'd like for you to name drop, since you've been there 30 years. You mentioned starting out with old Fred Conover, and he's a fine young man. I'd like for you to name some of the chiefs that you work with, or maybe some of your supervisors.
Well, you know, when I started to work for the Grand Prairie Police Department, I met Fred Conover because he the one came over at City Hall and got me.
Yes.
And the first thing he asked me, did you want to start to work today? And I said, no, sir, I want to start tomorrow.
All right.
And when I walked into the Grand Prairie Police Department, I met an officer that I had talked to on the street a long time ago, and his name was Ray Cass.
Oh, yes.
He's formerly retired of the Grand Prairie Police Department,
Yeah.
and he was working dispatch. That means he was working dispatch, answering the telephone, letting people out of jail, too.
Uh-huh.
And he asked me, Joe, what you doing here at this time of morning?
Oh, ho.
I said, well, I'm going to start to work.
Yes.
And so I started to work.
Oh, that is great. And then on down the line, can you mention some of the other supervisors that you've had?
Well, I had Kenneth Burr.
All right.
He was a real nice chief. You know, he's deceased now. I hate
Yes.
to hear that about anybody.
Yes.
But I really loved Chief Burr. He was a good guy. And
All
if
right.
you had any kind of problems, he would always be there to solve your problem for you. He would
All
be there to help you.
And who was next?
And then I had Sonny Pfeiffer.
All right.
He was a good police chief too. Sonny was young, you know,
Yes.
and he was a real guy. And he always kept a smile on his face and always walked up and said, Joe, how you doing? I'm doing all right, Chief. How's you doing?
Oh, that's great. And after Pfeiffer?
I had David Conkle.
All right.
And David, he was a good chief of police, and then he toured the building and all that and said, oh, Joe, everything looking swell. I said, yeah, thank you, Chief. And then I hate to see him go up to Arlington, you know.
Yes. They
Because he was a good
purloined
one.
him away from us, didn't they? Yes. And then,
And then after that, I had Chief Crum,
yes.
you know, and then I like Chief Crum. I respect Chief Crum, you know, and he always would, I would see him in the mornings, out in the wee hours, and he would say, "How you doing, Joe?" I say, "I'm doing all right, Chief. Everything's okay." "Yes, sir, everything's okay." And I would say, "Chief, you need me to come in there and get you off right now. You don't have to do it today. You can wait till your date when you always come up here to do it."
Oh, how
know,
great.
he was a
That's
nice guy.
wonderful. Nice guy. And then,
Before I retired, I had a nice chief, and everybody respect this guy. His name is Glenn Hill. Glenn Hill is a respectable man. I knew him all the way from a patrol officer. He worked himself all the way to chief of police, and I'm really proud of the man. It ain't nothing I wouldn't do to help the man out.
oh, isn't that great?
And I seen him come up through the ranks. And as he was coming up through the ranks, he's one of the nicest officers that I know of. I seen him come up through sergeant, lieutenant, and on up the ladder. And he's a real nice guy.
Oh, that is a real wonderful tribute to our chief of police now,
Yeah, and
Glenn
I
Hill.
still respect him. Anytime he called me, I don't care. I will come. Help the man. I told him, I said, I will help you out till you get somebody. And I mean what I say.
Oh, that is great. Well, you've had such an illustrious career, and you're going to be going back up there working part-time.
Yeah.
And if you don't work part-time, what you going to do? What's your hobby? Do you have any
Well, I
fishing?
love fishing, you know, and then I help a
Okay.
friend of mine every once in a while. He's got a janitorial business.
Oh, good.
And I help him out. I stay active, you know, and then a
Oh.
lot of work around the house I got to do.
Okay.
When I'm not laying up sleeping, watching television.
Oh, yes. Oh, that sounds good. Did you notice how Carolyn laughed pretty good then?
Yeah, she knows about
Even
it.
Mary Lee laughed a little bit when you told her.
And I'm always, my auntie, she's always calling me down to the house to fix this and fix that.
Oh, way to go, Mary Lee.
And she say, "How much I owe you?" I say, "Emily, can you forget about it sometime?" You know.
Uh-huh. That is
I say,
great.
You do a lot of things for us. You don't owe me anything.
Well,
She said, "Well, when I get some money, I'm gonna give you a little something." You know. And one day she walked down to the house and she handed me this $20. And I said, "Auntie, what's this for?" "Oh, you remember that what you did up there?" I said, "I forgot all about that."
oh, isn't that good?
And she said, "No, go ahead on and take it." I said, "Are you sure?" She said, "Yeah, I'm sure."
Oh, that is wonderful. I want to thank the three of you all for coming in today and making this interview so exciting, because Joe Lee Tennant, 30 years plus 7 months with the police department, and still going. He's going to be like that little battery that goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. That is it. That is it. And Mary Lee, we're honored to have you on the dais today. You are such a special lady to Grand Prairie, Texas. You have meant so much to so many people that have come into the bank and otherwise too. And Carolyn, thank you for helping to honor your brother. And
Thank you.
you bet. And this is Ruthie Jackson reminding you that history is as we live and do.
Amen.